I love hearing myself talk, but in fact, I'd rather do is have Marty read that eulogy again. It was tremendous, and I can only disagree with maybe 40 or 50 things that were in it. But what I want to tell you about Dennis is nothing that you don't already know. He was he was the friendliest person I ever knew. He was generous. There was not a mean bone in his body. He couldn't have been vindictive or petty or selfish if he tried. Dennis loved everything. That's what I'm going to remember most. Think of the word exuberant. That's the word that keeps popping into my head. He was full of life. He enjoyed everything so much. Here's another word for you to keep in mind, blasé. It's a word you don't hear much anymore, but it's a great word. And it's certainly a word that could not possibly apply to Dennis. He was never blasé. Everything that he came across, he found something to enjoy, to appreciate. I remember how much he loved basketball, playing basketball. I remember how much he loved getting pizza at Village Inn. I remember how much he loved his trips to New York. He loved the Muni Opera. He loved his work. And by the way, I guess maybe not all of you know that among Dennis's patients, and mostly it is the old people among you who will be able to relate to these names. Dennis treated Burt Lancaster, and he also treated a man named Paul Henreid, who was in the movie Casablanca. Dennis made never any kind of a fuss about knowing celebrities, but he enjoyed the work of taking care of them, trying to make them better. At the risk of not being understood by some of the younger people who are participating here, I want to ask those of you who knew Dennis when he was young to join me in trying your best to recall his laugh. Dennis laughed wonderfully. He laughed often. He loved to laugh. And he always found things to enjoy. The last thought I want to leave you with is that Dennis, one of the things he told me a month or two before he became ill, is that it had occurred to him that he thought he would have liked to be a priest. And he thought that he would probably have made a pretty good priest. And I couldn't agree with anything more than that. If you knew Dennis even half as well as I did, you can understand exactly what I'm talking about. I'll introduce Jerry Berwin, Dennis's first cousin.
Dennis was a very special person. A highlight of my time in high school was when we stayed late on Friday nights and we walked to downtown Maplewood and took a bus to Wellston, got a bite to eat, and then before we went home. He was just a great person to be with. Dennis really supported his family, being there for Joe, his throughout his outstanding career as a player and a coach. He was Brian's #1 fan at his shows, for his wonderful shows that Brian did. And Dennis's concerns for others remind me of his mother, Jean, who really took an interest in everyone she met. And while he worked 7 days a week taking care of his patients throughout his life, or for those, I believe it was 40 years that someone mentioned, he still was devoted to his acting career and worked diligently to become an outstanding actor. There really was no one quite like Dennis. He was a shining example of love, dedication, and caring for others. he will forever be a North Star for our family and friends, and as we look off into the sunset. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Oh, hi, I'm Bob Baker, a dear friend of Dennis since college days at Cardinal Glennon, where I really got to know him. We went to high school and college together, but really got to know Dennis in college, where we did a lot of fun things and continue to do so throughout our lives. I was very fortunate just a few months ago to be able to talk with Dennis and reminisce about some of our fun times. Especially he loved his trips to New York City, where I would go up and meet with him, and he'd be at different conferences. And we talked about one of his favorite moments was I was able to get tickets to a private party at Studio 54 back in his heyday. And I'll never forget how thrilled Dennis was that we were able to get in there. We met Gilda Radner and a lot of other stars that he knew and stuff. It was a big thrill. And I was just fortunate to be able to recreate and talk with him just a few months ago about that incident. The thing I remember most about Dennis, without a doubt, is his dedication to his family. He was all so proud of all of you. I don't think I ever called him a time when he didn't have to tell me and bring me up to date on what every one of his brothers and his sister was up to. He really just thought the world of you. In his dedication to his patients, I was very struck by. Dennis would call me late at night. He'd still be doing paperwork. And I'd say, Dennis, you do that when you're with the patient. Why do you bring all this paperwork home? I said, every other physical therapist does their reports while they're working with the patient. And Dennis would say, which is not unexpected, but I need to spend that time with the patient. You know, and I don't know of any physical therapist that has that same dedication. So just very fortunate to be part of his life and have some really great fun times with him. And I think Ken Raz is going to speak next.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for all the beautiful words, and I feel pretty inadequate speaking about this friend this very special person who I had the blessing of being a friend of for some 60 years. So I would like to tell you a little about the Dennis that I have known. Dennis did not live by the values of today's world. He did not pay attention to time. He did not care about accumulating money. He did not care about other worldly possessions. He did not care about promoting his importance, and we all know this. He did care about you, whoever you might be. He did care about what you cared about. He did care about your family, your needs, and your interests. He was honest and always spoke the truth. He was intense, persistent, committed, and focused. He did value life and people. And Dennis never put himself first. In his mind, there were others who had needs that took priority over any that he might have. I recall when Dennis was graduating with his degree in physical therapy, the head of the program at St. Louis U thought Dennis asked too many questions while doing his internships and was really a nuisance. I doubt that she ever encountered someone like Dennis and didn't appreciate someone with his curiosity. His interests were just understanding and being a great physical therapist. Her reaction was to call out Dennis in front of the entire graduating class and proclaim, Mr. Clark, if there was any way to keep you from graduating, I would, but I can't. Well, that scene would have traumatized many people, but not Dennis. It didn't faze him. He knew his motives and knew what he knew. He became a caring, knowledgeable, and effective home health physical therapist. I know that he would treat an elderly person in a rough LA neighborhood one day and return the next day to take them for groceries. When Dennis had a serious infliction with his eyes and could not drive, he would load up his equipment and take the bus to provide home health care for the patients who needed him. Dennis would often call after 10 p.m., not thinking about the 2-hour time difference between Los Angeles and St. Louis. He would have just come home from acting class and wanted to talk about a play or go over his lines, or he'd want to talk about St. Louis U basketball, or he would want to talk about the unique adventures and characters at Prep Seminary or Cardinal Glennon College, or very, very often he'd want to talk about family, his family and our family. The conversation has typically lasted 1 to 2 hours. I may have been tired, but I was always left with a smile on my face. Throughout hundreds of talks with Dennis, over probably thousands of hours, I can say that he never once commented about not liking someone or saying a bad word about someone. He did not criticize or complain about anything. Even as he suffered through a variety of physical challenges, he would never complain, but would explain what was happening and how the problem was being treated. He saw and enjoyed the humor of life, and he saw only the goodness in others. And this is the Dennis that I have had the privilege of knowing. Thank you.